Hey guys, this is episode 41 of the Daily BE, the Daily Bespoke Edge. I am Ryan. And what I got in my brain today is a little bit background here. I went out for a drink last night, met some different people, and kind of had a reminder of the world I used to come from before Bespoke Edge. I was an engineer working in a great big corporation, worked out of a cubicle, and there was a dress code, right? It was very, very casual. It was dress slacks or jeans, for that matter, for some people. And then just more or less a button-up dress shirt, super simple. If you wore a tie, you were standing out and people were kind of wondering what was going on. And if you wore a jacket or a sport coat, people were probably thinking, well, you have an interview someplace, don't you, Ryan? Why are you dressed up? Or people tend to think that you're going after management or you're going after, on that track to become a VP or an executive, right? And if you're in that environment where you kind of know what I'm talking about, you know that there is some pressure in the workforce and among your colleagues to really not dress too sharp, right? You kind of gotta stay the middle road and not look like you're trying too hard. People like to say that a lot of times. And unfortunately, that's kind of, I'm really empathetic to that pressure because I've been in that environment. And meeting this gentleman last night, he comes from that world, and he was talking to me about suits and style. And sounds like, outside of the office, he really dresses up a lot, and he really has an eye for the art and the style that all of us do. And yet in work, he can't really wear a sport coat because then he's kind of attracting attention, right? And so it got me thinking that, if you are in that environment and you do want to start dressing a little better, what can you do? I mean, do you really have to just kind of go with the flow and kind of stay under the radar and not dress too nice? And obviously you have a couple options. One, and this takes a lot of self-confidence, but if you just wanted to say, to hell with it, I'm going to wear whatever I want, I think that's the best answer, right? If you want to start wearing a full suit to the office, regardless of where you work or what the dress code is like, you could do it. No one's going to stop you. And there might be some rumors around the office of you have an interview that afternoon or something, et cetera, but people are going to talk, and then eventually if you keep wearing that suit or you keep wearing that sport coat or even something simple like you start wearing a tie, and you never used to wear a tie, if you keep doing it, eventually it'll be old news. That's just the thing you do. You just start dressing up. And it's easier if you're kind of switching a job, going from one company to another company because people don't know your background right and they just assume, well, maybe you've always dressed nice. So it can be easier in that sense, but regardless, if you just start doing it and make it your thing and really start dressing the way that you want to, eventually you'll see, I think that, it doesn't really matter what people are saying, and they're gonna maybe give you a hard time at the beginning, and then they'll move on, right? But you gotta kind of just keep doing it, is what I've learned over the years. And I am kind of becoming a little bit, outside of that world. I haven't been in the engineering world for about 3 years in that great big company format. But I still remember how tough it is that if you do want to kind of dress nice, there's one day I even wore kind of maroon, not quite red, but kind of a darker hue pair of jeans, and I got a lot of trouble for that I was dressing too bold. So the first option, just if you can, just go for it, just do it, put all the chips in. I think that's a great way to go. Another thing I was thinking about though after chatting with this guy last night is, here's something you can do, and let me know what you think in the comments below. But right now it's March. It's still pretty cold outside for most of us in the United States, but regardless, you can try and find like a more casual sport coat. And so more casual means, 2 or 1 button, but more what I'm thinking is kind of a thicker fabric, like corduroy. Or if you're in a really warm climate, maybe get like a seersucker, something that's kind of not too refined, not like a shark skin fabric, for instance. We did a video on that a couple days back. Not a real slick looking suit, but just something a little more textured, a more corduroy, maybe a flannel jacket, something like that. Because that'll kind of borderline with real practical outfit, right? And if it's cold outside, for all people know, you're just wearing your coat inside. And I think a lot of people will look at a sport coat and just assume that it's a jacket, which it is a jacket. We tend to forget that, whether it's a nice suit or a sport coat or a blazer, it's a jacket and it keeps you warm. And so in place of a sweater, for instance, you could just start wearing kind of this more casual sport coat. And, instead of taking it off when you sit down in your office, keep it on. Or you go to a meeting, throw it on. Put it over the back of your chair. If you head out for lunch with the guys and your colleagues, you can just grab your coat and off you go. So that's kind of a subtle, sneaky way to kind of start dressing better in the office and not really attract a lot of attention if that's important to you. Again, I think the best thing you can do is just wear whatever the hell you want to wear, and who cares what people think. Eventually, it'll become your identity. You're just the guy that dresses up, and that's cool. That's awesome. But if you are kind of having a tough time getting over the inertia of wearing something that's predominantly perceived as being too nice, like a sport coat or a blazer, kind of that gateway can be wearing a real casual jacket. And then as the weather warms up, if you're in a cooler climate, you can just keep wearing it, and then maybe you switch to like a seersucker or kind of linen coat, and then the fabrics get a little more thin, a little less casual, and before long people just realize that you always wear a coat. So give that some thought. Let me know what you think. I think it's kind of a clever way to dress a little bit more sharp while still maintaining the rules and maybe respecting those rules in your work environment, which is, office dynamics is interesting animal in different companies. And I understand that it can be, kind of tough to kind of walk that line of dressing nice but not too nice. So, food for thought. Let me know what your thoughts are. And we'll probably do more topics like this. I think, and sometimes it's a lot of fun for me to show you some things on the table, but also, kind of getting a little more, dare I say, philosophical in our sartorial endeavors, I think can have a lot of value too. So, food for thought, guys. Let me know what you think, and we will be back with another episode tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.